All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Well, we were here for an hour, and now we're here for another hour. We're going to answer your questions. 540-0580. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. AJ, what do you got to say?
Oh, hello, Carl.
Yeah, what's up, brother?
Hey, love your show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just had a question about firearms laws. Have a permit to carry in PA, have a pistol, and if I understand it's reciprocal in several other states, including North Carolina. But my question is, how do you physically, if you're driving to that other state and you're going through let's say a blue state or something,
right?
Yeah, I mean, legally, how do you transport a firearm there in your car?
Well, my advice has been to transport the firearm secure in a trunk or other compartment, unloaded with the ammunition stored and secured separately, and then when you go through that jurisdiction, don't speed.
Okay.
But if you do get pulled over, the answer is you may interstate transport a firearm from one state to the other if you can lawfully possess it at both points. So you should be fine. But I would also carry my concealed carry permit with me, and I wouldn't bring up to every Tom, Dick, Harry, or police officer that pulls me over that I have a firearm or ordinance in the car.
Okay, that was my other question. Are you required to tell, a police officer if you're pulled over for speeding?
It's interesting question. And here's where it gets to be interesting. In a state where you could lawfully possess it, I guess they could require you to mention it, right? But Pennsylvania does not. But let's assume I'm in Illinois or Idaho or some other crazy state where they've said you must tell it, otherwise it's a crime. My failure to tell the officer, I guess, would be a crime. But when does that become a crime? If I don't tell him promptly, at what point? So maybe my right to remain silent gets implicated at some point. Or maybe if I'm not supposedly able to transport it, then I don't have to turn myself in either, because that would be compelled speech. But my long and short of it is, I know you can transport it from one jurisdiction to the other where you're allowed to have it. My advice would be to Google one of the NRA websites where they probably have instructions on best practices for interstate transport of firearms. But here's what we'll do. And Shane, mark this down so we don't forget. We will, by Tuesday, September 4th at 7 p.m., when I go to the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers Association to discuss gun laws and gun rights, get that question definitively answered.
Okay, perfect.
All right?
Okay, thanks, Carl.
All right, my friend. Take care. For those of you just joining us, August 25th from 2 to 3 p.m., I'm going to have Dave Nesbitt on here, David Nesbitt from Keystone Elder Law, and he's going to give us an elder law update and answer your elder law questions here on the air, and that'll be from 2 to 3 p.m. on August 25th. So please tune in for that. And, of course, don't forget you can get your beautiful green Rominger & Associates coffee mug, which also keeps beer cold in the summertime, at the 35 South Hanover Street location of the Carlisle Bakery. And they're open from Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I've had their sticky buns and a few other things there. They're all good. So, and you get a free mug with the purchase of your coffee. 540-0580 is the talk line number today. TJ, you're on the air.
Good afternoon. I have an answer to one of your questions, and then I have to ask you a question.
All right.
First, the answer. You had asked when's the last time Pennsylvania had executed any death row inmates.
Yes.
We had 2 executions in 1995, and then we had 1 in 1999.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you that answer in case you were wondering. And then the next question, there was a former Mechanicsburg man who was sentenced to death row back in the mid-'80s. I'm not sure if I should say his name or not in the air here, but I just have to wonder if he's still alive or dead, and if he had died, wouldn't it have been a responsibility to report that to the local news here?
I think we would know about it. You can say the name.
The name, and I'm always curious about this, Fred Germain. He killed his mother back in 1985.
Yeah. Well, let's Google him here.
Yeah, I mean, I tried that at the library. Googled, looked up, and I couldn't find no information. I assume he's still on death row in prison, one of them in PA.
I don't know. Well, we'll try to dig it up here.
J-E-R-M-Y-H.
M-Y-H.
Yeah, or M-Y-N. It's either M-Y-H or M-Y-N. It took place in 1985 when he murdered his mother in a home they shared.
Okay.
In Mechanicsburg. I mean, off air, I can give you my number if you want.
Yeah, we'll find it. Just keep listening to the show, and before the end of it, we'll get you the answer.
Or my email, for that matter. If you want off air, I could give too. Either or.
Yeah, we'll get it for you.
Okay, but I'm just wanting to put that offer out. Other than that, you keep up the excellent work.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
Have a good day, sir.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
540-058. It begs the question, is he going to the library because he doesn't have an internet access at home, or is he going to the library so he can cover his tracks? Don't worry. There's probably facial recognition software on the library computer, so be careful. Sandy, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm drinking a rock star.
Yeah. I had a question about where my granddaughter might go for an answer here.
Okay.
She took a job through Craigslist. I don't know all the exact pertinent details, but
she took a job from where?
Craigslist.
Craigslist?
Over July.
What's your granddaughter doing exactly?
She was going to man the fireworks fence.
Okay.
And went to Philly to do this, from Lancaster to Philly, and worked there 12-hour shifts for 7 days, was promised $2,000 pay. When it came to the end of the whole thing, she came to a place in Lancaster, which was a real estate gentleman, and went in there to get her paycheck, and he gave her $400. And she said, I was promised $2,000. And he said, well, we didn't do so good, and so on and so forth. What can she, where can she go to get help to possibly,
Yeah, we would want to take a look at that and see what the offer was and how the job was structured. She could go to the Department of Labor. That would be one place to go. The Attorney General's office would be another place to go, or a private attorney. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old sharecropper situation. You go at the end of the season in and see the landowner, and he says, "Well, I got good news and bad. The good news is, we got all the cotton picked and we got it taken care of, and you don't owe me any money." What's the bad news? The bad news is I don't owe you any money, I guess, from your.
Well, thanks so much, Carl. We'll look into it.
All right, take care.
Thanks. Bye.
540-058. That's how it used to work, because the indigent, rural poor, whether they were white or black in the South, who couldn't read or write, would go in to see the landowner. And, of course, the landowner would announce the good news was they didn't owe anything at the end of the year. And they had no ability to check on those numbers because they couldn't read or write. And, of course, if you were black in the South in those days, you also didn't have the right to assert a legal right against the white landowner. I know some of the callers out there think I'm crazy, but no, believe it or not, the discrimination in the South was off the hook, unbelievably horrible in that era. And I'm not talking about 1870 either. I'm talking about 1940, 1950, 1960. So anyhow, I digress on that point, but what I would say is if you're going to get involved in a Craigslist / Backpage / whatever the new media is of help wanted ads, you might want to check and get some references, but you also might want to get in writing what it is that they're offering to pay you so that later you have some proof of it. I have a bad feeling later we're going to learn, well, I didn't actually promise $2,000. I said up to $2,000. Up to $2,000. Oh, okay. Now, and of course, there are other jobs like that, like those crab boats, or a friend of mine, she used to go out on the salmon fishing boats up in Alaska, and what your payment was based on your catch. So if your payment was based on your catch, in this case, how many fireworks you sold, we might consider it commission, or maybe it was what, the whole operation was going to do, and you're going to get some kind of profit share out of it, or own a percentage of the crop, so to speak. Then it might be a little different. But again, you'd want all that in writing. So just put that in the back of your head, folks. If I show up at your house and I promise you something and I'm not willing to put it in writing, there might be a reason why. 540-0580. I'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. 540-0580. Oh, the sun is out. Sun is out. I'm going to see Shan. I'm going to go see some alpacas later today.
Well, that sounds fun.
And llamas and sheeps. Yeah, something to do on a Saturday afternoon. Trying to figure out, my son asked me if you can eat alpacas or not. and I wasn't certain. So maybe somebody can help us with that.
I feel like in some country you can.
Right. Well, in some countries you can eat the neighboring tribe too, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing? This is Sam.
Yeah, what's going on?
Not Uncle Sam. Hey, quick question. My dad died in September 2007.
Okay.
And in the spring of 2008, we had to open the estate up for something. I took the papers into the lawyer 2008 in the spring, and he said take care of it. And since then, I've not heard one thing. Should it take that long?
That shouldn't take that long.
Because the tax forms, when I filled those tax forms out, I signed it, of course, that come back to me.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, I had to take the lawyer up to them and say, yeah, we'll take care of it. And here it is. They've not called me one time or nothing. I mean, that's, 5 years?
Time for a new appointment.
I mean, I'll go up and talk to him and say, where's my – it should have tax me forms. I took them up to him.
Yeah, time for a new appointment.
I don't know what – shouldn't take that long, though, should it?
No, it shouldn't take that long. Absolutely not.
Okay, Carl, thanks.
All right,
Good
Sam.
program, Carl.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Okay, bye.
Bye. 540-0580. Answer your legal questions here on the air. It shouldn't take. If it feels like it's taking too long, it might behoove you to call the attorney and ask him why. I know that we are slower than molasses. I always remember when people call me up and say, "Well, how fast can this get done?" And I go, "Well, all right. Well, I'm going to file it, and then the other side has 20 days to answer, and then we have 20 days to answer their answer, and then it's going to take 6 months to set up the arbitration, and then the other side can appeal the arbitration. This could be 8 months to the jury trial, and then, of course, the other side's going to appeal. So, in 3.5 to 4 years, you'll know what's going to happen with your case for sure. A lot of them track faster than that, but some track slower than that. I'm trying to think right now. I've got some civil litigation that's been going on for years and years and years. Criminal stuff tends to resolve itself, but I do recall being in a courtroom recently where the judge's comment was that this is the 22nd continuance agreed to by the defense and the Commonwealth. Now, do the math on that one. If you go back every 2 months, that was like a four-year continuance. So, Shane's doing some research and says they do not eat the alpaca. Oh, is that they do not eat it? In South America, I know that the Mesoamericans would sometimes eat the llamas. I know that they used them for feasts. They used them for pack animals, but then periodically they would feast on them. So
maybe you should go over what the difference is between an alpaca and a llama.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're similar beasts of burden that they live at altitude. I know that.
Maybe people are just getting them confused.
And of course, I know you can eat sheep because they call that mutton, and the more preferable form of sheep is known as the lamb, right?
Correct.
And, as innocent as a lamb or as tasty as lamb chops, depending on how you want to look at it. But seriously, I mean, I don't know. I was just curious. 540-0580. If you have a legal question, of course, we'll answer here on the air. I know it's getting to be the heart of summer here, and you probably have better things to do than call in with a question. But if something has been bothering you, or you've just always been curious, or a friend or family member has been in a personal injury accident, I do get a little annoyed every once in a while, which is, of course, Durgan likes to call me criminal defense attorney, Carl. And I do. Obviously, my biggest cases have been criminal cases, but we do a pile of personal injury work and car accident cases, wrongful deaths, etc. I've done many of those over the years, and I feel that we do a very good job with them. So if you have any of those questions, I'm always happy to answer them. Or if you know somebody in need, we're always happy to take those cases. It's also very interesting work. One of the interesting aspects for me is the fight over insurance coverage that we quite often have to go through. So somebody will have been injured in an accident, and they'll discover that they're limited tort, for instance. And after we do our due diligence, we'll determine that actually they're not limited tort. We'll get them back to full tort. Or one of my personal favorites was the person who had no uninsured, underinsured insurance. And so they collected $15,000 from the other side, but we invalidated the sign downs, and we were ultimately able to collect for that person a few $100,000. So just because your insurance company is telling you there's no coverage available, or some lawyer says, oh, there's nothing that can be done because you didn't, if they aren't getting all this stuff and checking it and looking very carefully at it, then I would be careful. Oh, I just got a message from Nate Wolf. He says, a pile I would not want to step in. Okay, very nice. Making fun of me. Nate's a dear friend, so he can do that. But anybody else in trouble? Bruce, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, Carl, I got a question for you. The wife and I are getting a divorce, and we pretty much it was going to be amicable, but she had won a nice little lottery chunk 4 or 5 years ago, and we bought a house for use as a rental.
Yes.
And pretty much the only thing I wanted was the rental house. And all of a sudden, she's come up and told me that she had taken out a second mortgage or a mortgage out on the house to do some repairs that I didn't know about. I didn't sign for. I didn't do anything. So, if I just want the house, does that mortgage have to come with me, and I got to pay for it too?
Well, if the mortgage is attached to the house, it runs with the land. It doesn't mean it's part of a divorce, though. You couldn't compel your wife to give you sufficient other assets to pay the mortgage off, or to pay the mortgage off as part of the divorce if there is sufficient other assets there.
All right.
Well, even if it's an amicable divorce, make sure you got attorneys.
Oh yeah. We're getting that. We're getting to that point.
Good.
We weren't just going to do it, ourselves. And then she hit me with this. Well, you got to pay the mortgage on the house, on the rental. And I said, what mortgage?
What mortgage? Right.
Yeah. So how did you get a mortgage on a house and I didn't sign for it?
Wait till you find out. Wait till you find out you have stepkids you didn't know about.
That probably so. Probably so.
All right.
And your llama alpaca thing.
Yeah. What do you need to know? What do you know?
No, I was watching the Animal Planet here a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about alpacas, and they said that alpacas they use for their fur and stuff mainly, that they don't eat them even where they grow them and use them and stuff.
It must not taste good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're out in the middle of the desert waiting to cross the border to fight the bad guys, you'd eat anything except for a sea ration.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Been there.
Well, they're up to MREs now. You get no more sea rations now. Now you get these delicious MREs.
Oh, let me tell you, between a sea ration and MRE, it's like going to McDonald's and a fine French dinner.
I've heard that. See, I've had the pleasure of never eating a sea ration. But I do actually keep some. I keep some MREs in my office and in my car and at my house just in case World War X breaks out.
Well, I can tell you, when I was in basic training, I got a sea ration that was dated 1957, the year of my birth. Go ahead.
Well, at least they weren't having you set off the old ammunition. At least. I should say ordnance. I'm sorry, I used the wrong term. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, ammunition, bullets. I'm a regular person now.
All right, take care.
All right, y'all have a good old day.
We will.
Thank you for the information.
No, thank you for the information. It was secondhand from Animal Planet, but hey, it was information. 540-0580. Butch, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. Why, the guy there that was concerned about that shooting range there, what the township could do. I don't know if people remember they changed these racing schedules at Lincoln Speedway and Williams Grove some years ago, where I think the final race had to start by 10 o'clock. And now I don't know what process they went through to get that accomplished, but I guess the townships can evidently do whatever they want to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know whether... I guess people in that area, that's the trouble with these housing developments that are popping up everywhere. They build them right close to stuff like that, but then when there's a race going on, nobody wants to hear the noise. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember when they were building the golf course out in Silver Spring, Rich Valley. And by the way, if you're a golfer and you haven't golfed Rich Valley, I highly recommend you go out there and stop and try it. It's a nice little golf course. Tell them Carl sent you.
Okay.
But that used to be a farm, okay? And years ago when they were trying to build a golf course, I was at the township meeting where all the locals were in there complaining about this golf course developing this beautiful piece of farmland. But the best part about it was all the locals that were in there complaining lived in these two major developments, which would have been nearby the golf course.
Right.
And as the lawyer for the developer, who's also the owner of the course and works there every day, pointed out, he had a map of everybody's addresses, and as he pointed out, he said, your house used to be part of this farm, and this guy's house is part of that farm, and this guy's part of this farm, and you were also part of that. But the idea was to show or to point out the hypocrisy of all these people living in their cozy little development, complaining about somebody developing the farmland, whereas 20 years before, there were no houses there. Their development took over another farm.
Right.
And, it's just this idea of everybody wants to complain about somebody else's development, but all their houses that they're living in, except for, there's houses in Carlisle, and like my building in Carlisle where I live, it's been there a few hundred years. I can make the claim that at least no recent footprint there, right?
Right.
But most of America has not been there very long, and most of the suburbs have been there even less.
Right.
So I get fascinated with people's theories on development and how everybody else should not be able to develop or expand, but they should bear the fruits of their development.
Well, I was kind of surprised when they got that passed because, those racetracks, Williams Grove and Lincoln Speedway, they've been around a long, long time.
Right.
Well before anybody thought about building homes in that area. And I sort of thought, well, that'll never fly because it probably got grandfathered in. But evidently it didn't because now they have to, the way I understand, they have to start them races by 10 o'clock, you know what I mean?
Right.
The final race there because of the noise. But you know what, it's getting down to the point, that's the trouble with these housing developments. Like, why would you want to move into a house next to a pig farm? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy a house right down by TMI. If the land's cheap, I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
But then I can't complain about the view, right?
Well, that's
cooling
right.
towers blocking my view of the sun. I mean, whatever.
Well, people want to live out in the country, you know what I mean, with these housing developments. But then, if there's a farmer nearby that's got pigs or cows or whatever they have, they're just going to have to put up with that smell, you know what I mean?
I got to go to break in a minute, but I'll tell you a funny story. I met a girl one time whose husband was pretty wealthy and, said she wanted to get a farm because she thought she'd get a farm with some animals on it because she thought it would be good to, have children come to the farm or do something, one of these, pie-in-the-sky things. But it was very funny because she said, after I got the farm and I got the animals, I discovered that they're not very clean or cuddly after all. And I'm like, you mean like the chickens roll in the dirt and all that good stuff? And she said, yeah. And I just remember thinking like, there you go. There's your education and what a farm is really like. It's not this pristine, beautiful, odorless place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like these horse girls. It's like these horse girls. They can smell like a horse. They don't know it.
Yeah. Well, I just thought I'd throw that in there because I know they changed them race schedules around, and I think it's 10 o'clock at night.
Here's the other question. Did they agree to that? Sometimes good corporate citizens will sometimes reach an agreement with the township and say, you know what, pass an ordinance, but this is what we want because we're fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case, what might have happened there or not, but...
If I was the owner of the Speedway, here's what I would say. I'd like, listen, these drunken race fans are hard to control. And if I told them I'm allowed to do another race, they're going to get mad at me. But if I say, hey, it's the township's fault, maybe I can control them better.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the whole problem. People build around those places, and then they don't want to put up with the noise. You know what I mean? They want it nice and quiet.
Well, that's what we're hearing. I know, that's this gun range. I got to go to break. Take care.
Hey, enjoy your show, Carl.
Hey, thank you for listening. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. We'll paint our palette of questions here. Paul, what's going on?
Hello, Carl?
Yep.
Hey, Carl. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
Not a problem.
I was hoping you can give me some direction and clear up some issues. Unfortunately, my brother died very suddenly on me, and he left our mother living at the house with him. Now, she's the actual signer of the mortgage, but he's also on there as a secondary.
Okay.
And we're trying to keep her in the house If not, the banks will be throwing her out. But when we talk to real estate agents, they can't give us a clear answer to this about the taxes. If it's one of those situations where, like, the family gives the house to the children, and obviously you pay inheritance tax. But would my mother have to pay one? She's 77 years old.
Now, who's on the deed?
It's actually my mother and my brother.
And how did they own it together? As joint right of survivorship?
No, she is the primary, and from what I hear from my mother, because it's very hard for her to communicate, he had written his name in as a secondary on the mortgage.
How about on the deed, though?
I'm not too sure of the deed.
The deed's going to control if he owned the house,
right.
and then she's going to inherit it. There'd be an inheritance tax on it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if she owned the house and he did with the right of survivorship, then she takes it free and clear.
Right. Yeah, it might be the first tier where she's going to have to pay the inheritance. So it's one of those important things where, the existing elderly mother can't live at the house because he died and she can't afford to keep it because now she has to pay that tax.
Now, here's the other thing, though. The inheritance tax is not going to be the value of the property. It's going to be the value of the property less the mortgage owed on it. So It could be a much more modest tax bill than you'd imagine.
Oh, I see. When you talk to the real estate companies, which way is the best way to get this information solidified? Would that be coming? Should we retain a real estate attorney?
You should get you'd want to get an estate attorney to basically open the estate and clean the whole thing up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your help.
No problem. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sorry about your brother.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. 540-0580. Bob, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Carl. I have a question about, does a private property owner retain any private property rights whatsoever in a township road right-of-way? And I'll give you a background to this. It was about 10 years ago, and it's always bothered me.
Okay.
I have a field that's about 1,000 feet long. It has about a 3-foot bank along the road. And the township, for valid reasons, I guess, decided they wanted to widen the road a little bit. And so I came home one evening, and 3 feet by 3 feet of property, 1,000 feet long, probably 3 triaxles of topsoil, was gone. And when I asked the roadmaster, where did that ground go, he said, well, it was given to different people in the township that wanted it. And I said, that was my ground. And he said, no, you don't own that ground. It's in the right-of-way. And my question is, I understand a right-of-way gives the township the right to create ingress and egress and maintain the road, but do they actually own to the edge of their right-of-way? Can they take your ground away?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, they can't alter... Okay, I'm thinking about this like, okay, if you have land, you own the land. If they have a right-of-way, they have a right of use.
Right.
And the right-of-way itself will prescribe what that use is. And it's basically a form of an easement across the land for purposes of building a road or getting egress or ingress.
Right.
But I don't think that necessarily means that they own the land itself to the point where they could alter it in order to use the right of way or to maintain the right of way as contemplated.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if they're going to say, well, we had to dig the dirt off in order to do something with it. In other words, as part of maintaining our right of way, we were going to dig that dirt off anyhow, so we gave it away. But it's still your dirt.
That's what I thought. I mean, and it's happened to other people in the township, and of course, where it goes is to the friends of the roadmaster. So
no.
It always bothers me that they think that they own this, and I've always felt that at least first offer should be to the landowner, especially if it's a large amount of ground.
Yeah, we're going to move some topsoil off here because we're expanding the right-of-way or we're maintaining it or whatever. If you don't want it, we need to put it somewhere. But if it's your dirt, yeah, I mean, I would think, I mean, let's look at it this way. Let's assume that the dirt has some mineral value to it, right? And let's say you maintain the mineral rights in your property.
Right.
I don't think an easement across the property for a road allows somebody to just scoop the ore up and run off with it, even if it's part of the easement. Now, again, the easement's going to be specified for its use and its nature and its scope, and if it's for a road or it's for something that has to be maintained a certain way. I mean, there's argument that they need to maintain it, but I don't think that extends to just taking your raw material either. Yeah, sounds like you'd win it. What's the value of all that dirt?
I wouldn't know, and this happened a long time ago. It's just always bothered me, and I've always wondered the answer to it. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for your opinion. I appreciate it.
Sleep well now.
Yeah, very good. All right, thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
540-0580. Next up is Terry. Oh, that's not Terry. That's Terry.
Hello.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, Carl. I have a two-pronged problem. The right branch of my neighbor's tree, on Labor Day...
Literally a two-pronged problem.
Yeah. And on Labor Day, the right branch, in a thunderstorm and wind, fell off because it's old, and it fell on my aluminum fence and bent it to the ground, bent my wash prop and everything, and I have this extensive damage. And then, I was told by my insurance company that I have to pay for this because it's a $500 homeowner insurance deductible I have, and that was an act of God. Okay, so that's my one problem.
Now, let me stop because we'll answer it real quick. If a tree is on somebody's property and it's a naturally occurring thing like a tree or a natural piece of the land, we've said in the law that if it falls over or something breaks off of it, it's the landowner's, adjoining landowner's problem to the extent that it lands on them. It's not the owner of the tree's problem. So far they're correct.
Okay, well now here's the other problem. On the left branch of the tree, the left side, which is also old, the telephone company tells us that it is involving the telephone wires of 6 houses. And any day, I have a fear, I can see it coming, that's going to come down, bring down all the telephone wires. It'll land on my property again and on my fence. And I've been told by a telephone company that when it comes down, they'll put it up. Also, in the wintertime, the snow lays very heavy on these branches and very heavy on the wires. And I've asked the owner of the tree to cut these limbs, and he told me he can't afford it. In the meantime, I'm told I can cut it. Now, it's going to cost me $200, $300, and I don't know. I mean, if that falls on my property, it's going to cost me more.
Right.
You see my problem? I don't understand why he doesn't trim and take care of his own tree. Why do I have to go and have it cut just to preserve my property?
Right. And it seems to me, it's an interesting question. Now, it's a naturally occurring condition, but you're saying he's not maintaining it.
No, it is involving. The branches lie heavy. I live in a row home. Six homes are involved, the telephone wires. I've been told that by PP&L. Okay, six telephone wires are involved. If the limb comes down, our wires are all coming down.
Right.
And I know, and if the limb comes down, it's going to fall down again on my fence.
My thought is my practical thought at this point is to secure his permission in writing to take care of the tree and have somebody do it. And pay for it so that you don't get stuck with another $500 deductible down the road.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right that I have to pay to have his tree cut so it doesn't damage everybody's property when he should be trimming his tree so it doesn't damage his neighbor's property. That's what gets me.
And I think that's the problem is there's no requirement to trim the tree, right?
No. The telephone company said when the wires come down, they'll put them up. That's what we were told. Right,
and that's the issue. So my thought on the matter is sometimes it's better. Look, we just lost $500 deductible the one way. It's better to get ahead of the problem.
Okay. Well, his tree is costing me a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And it doesn't seem fair.
Well, wait a minute. Fair, right? But it's not about fairness. So, as I understand it, he doesn't have a duty to trim the tree because it's a naturally occurring condition. A piece of it falls off and does something to you. It's an act of God. On the other hand, at a certain point, you might be able to turn it around and claim that he's creating a nuisance, and then you could sue him for a nuisance suit, right?
It seems like the limbs are old.
Yeah, and so you could sue him for a nuisance, and you might win it, but that's going to cost you, $1,000. So it's cheaper just to secure his permission and get this thing taken care of.
Well, actually, I understand I don't need permission because if
to the extent they hang over you, no.
It's the alley or over my property or over the public alley.
Correct. I agree with that. But if you're going to do it, you might as well be able to get maybe a better cut on them. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
I mean, maybe your tree guy can trim a lot more while he's up there.
Oh, okay.
Sort of take care of what's about to come. Yeah, they're going to keep growing, so maybe you can nip it in the bud, so to speak.
Yeah, it seems it's so unfair.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I can't. I'm not the fairness cop. What can I do? I got to go to break.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Fair. Hey, welcome back. Finishing up the show here this afternoon. A little bit more time for your legal questions. Of course, we'll be back next Saturday from 1 to 3 answering them live. But throughout the week, if you need us, go to RomingerLaw.com. Don't forget, August 25th, 2 to 3 p.m., we'll have David Nesbitt on with Elder Law. He's our elder law expert. So come join us August 25th from 2 to 3 p.m. for that. September 4th at 7 p.m., I'll be at the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers at 7 p.m. That's open to the public on gun laws. And don't forget to go to the Carlisle Bakery in Carlisle on 35 South Hanover Street to claim your free Rominger & Associates mug. John.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I have a question about having to register your religion with the federal government for an exemption to the Affordable Health Care Act.
Yeah.
There's, I guess, a provision in there that says that you don't have to be, if you're Amish, you are exempt from the penalty. The question is, if you're exempt, if you're Amish, do you have to register that you're Amish?
Well, I don't know if you have to register, but you're going to have to assert it somehow, right? It kind of reminds me of the conscientious objector standard.
Okay.
So I understand what you're saying is they're forcing you to reveal your religion in order to take benefit of something.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with it either. But it's not without precedent.
Right, but the point is, isn't that essentially giving preference to one religion over another?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, absolutely. We're going to give you a free pass on health care based on religion, so we'll all become Amish.
That's right. And I understand that during FDR's term, the Supreme Court overturned part of his provisions for some of his laws based on giving a religious preference or not providing for religious preference.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't that really make this thing, if I specifically point out that one religion is exempt, then therefore you're not having to be it, and they're telling you what you have to do in order to practice your religion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting point. I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but it could be another angle of attack on it.
And, I mean, there's precedent from a previous Supreme Court rulings that said, you know, isn't the First Amendment says the government will not endorse any religion?
Well, there's supposed to be no endorsement of religion. I agree. Of course, in Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania, many gazillion years ago, we came up with an affirmation instead of an oath so that the Quakers could, still testify in Pennsylvania. So we gave them a free pass.
Right.
Which, by the way, I went to a Friends meeting recently. It was very interesting.
So if in fact this is done, then, and I'm actually reading part of this, the stuff.
Well, we got to figure this out, but it's a little fresh right yet. So 2014, it'll become ripe.
Well, the point is they're forcing you to pick a religion.
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I got to come back to conscientious objector status. Think Muhammad Ali. All right, I got to take a few more callers before we run out of time here.
All right.
Frank, you're on the air. Frank.
Hello, Carl. Thank you for taking my call.
Not a problem.
Concerning the noise issue at gun clubs, I belong to some sportsmen's clubs, and I just have a few suggestions or comments. If anybody's listening with that,
blow them out there.
Club. Well, it might go a long way. I've seen already where if the club takes the initiative to be a good neighbor, working with the neighbors. A couple cases in point. The one club I belong to, you can shoot from 8 to sunset. Well, here a few years ago, they took the initiative. They were sensitive to the community. They started no shooting before 12 noon on Sunday only.
Right.
That way it gives people Sunday mornings.
We're out of time. We're out of time, but I appreciate it.
Yep.
So high right now.
Oh, well, who's that, Shane? I don't know. All right. Well, anyhow, I will see you guys. I will see you guys next week, 1 to 3. Answer your legal questions. Go to romingerlaw.com, ROMINGER law.com, or Facebook me, Carl with a K, Rominger on Facebook. I'll see you next Saturday. Take care.